30 years of marriage, 30 years of shared coffee mugs, inside jokes, and weathering every storm. I thought we were solid, untouchable even. But the night before our anniversary, I found something in my wife's bag that shattered every illusion I had. Divorce papers, typed, signed by her, not yet filed, but real. And in that moment, the life I thought I'd built with the woman I adored felt like a carefully staged play. And I didn't even know I was just a character. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 56, a quiet man, some might say. I've never needed much. Just my wife, Eleanor, and our daughter, Sophie. A cozy home, a backyard with a swing I built myself. That Friday night, I had planned something special. Our 30th anniversary was the next day, and I wanted to surprise Eleanor with tickets to Venice. She had always dreamed of going. I even printed out the itinerary and wrapped it inside a little envelope. She was upstairs taking a bath. Her purse was on the dining table. I had left my phone charger in her car and thought maybe, just maybe, it was inside her bag. What I found wasn't a charger. It was a manila envelope with our names printed neatly on top. Inside, legal documents, divorce, custody arrangements for Sophie, even though she was already 22 and didn't need custody. My hands trembled as I read line by line. Petitioner, Eleanor Carter. Respondent, Daniel Carter. Filed, but not submitted. I stood there in our kitchen with the hum of the refrigerator behind me and my whole world ending in front of me. She came down in her robe, hair damp, cheeks flushed. "You okay?" she asked, noticing my pale face. I nodded too quickly. "Just tired." We ate dinner in silence. I couldn't look at her. She didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did. And was just as afraid of the confrontation as I was. At one point, she reached for the salt and smiled. That smile used to warm me. Tonight, it burned. After she went to bed, I sat in the garage for hours. My mind wandered to the first time I saw her in college, in that yellow sweater with a tear at the sleeve. To the letter she wrote me the night before our wedding, saying I was her safe place in the storm. To the night Sophie was born and she clutched my hand, tears of joy streaming down her face. Had it all been a lie? Or had I changed? Was I blind to something she had been trying to show me? I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I had made up my mind I would confront her, not in anger, but in truth. She came downstairs humming. The table was set for breakfast. She made pancakes, my favorite. She wore the necklace I gave her 10 years ago, the one she hadn't worn in months. "Happy anniversary," she said, pecking my cheek. "Yeah," I managed. "Happy anniversary." I waited until Sophie called to say she was on her way over. She had planned a surprise lunch for us, and before she arrived, I placed the envelope on the table. Her smile faded the second she saw it. "Where did you find that?" she whispered. "In your bag," I replied. She stared at it, then at me, then looked away. "You were going to leave me," I said. "Tomorrow, after the celebrations, after pretending everything was fine." She sank into the chair. "Daniel, Was it someone else?" I asked, my voice shook. "Is that it?" "No," she said quickly. There's no one else." "Then why?" I asked. "Why would you do this?" She covered her face with her hands, and when she looked up, her eyes were red. Because I didn't know how to say it anymore, how to explain it without sounding cruel. "Try," I said, "please." And what she said next, I wasn't ready for it. Eleanor took a breath so long it sounded like she was preparing to jump off a cliff. "I wasn't going to go through with it," she said. "I had the papers drawn up months ago, but I never filed them." "Why draw them up at all?" I asked, my voice rough. She stared at her hands, fingers trembling. "Because I felt invisible, Daniel." My mouth opened, but she raised her hand gently. "For years, I felt like a ghost in this house, like your roommate, like the only conversations we had were about bills or groceries. I used to feel seen by you, admired. But lately I feel like furniture, useful." I swallowed hard. "You never said anything. You never asked," she whispered. "And I didn't know how to bring it up without sounding ungrateful. But when I found myself crying while folding your laundry, I knew something was wrong." She began listing small things I barely noticed. How I forgot her birthday 2 years ago. How I didn't ask how her painting class went even though she told me it was important to her. How she had been going to therapy quietly for months, hoping it would help her sort through the numbness. But it only amplified the truth. "I felt like I was disappearing," she said. "And I thought, maybe if I left I'd find myself again." I couldn't speak, because deep down I knew she was right. That was the moment Sophie burst in through the front door, arms full of takeout containers and a bright smile on her face. "Surprise! Lunch is on me," she said cheerfully. "What's going on? Why do you both look like you've seen a ghost?" We quickly pulled ourselves together. Eleanor stood and hugged her. "Nothing, sweetheart," she said softly. "Just talking about the past." Sophie didn't buy it. She always had a sixth sense, but she didn't press. We sat down for lunch. The silence between Eleanor and me screamed louder than words. Later that afternoon, while Sophie took a nap upstairs, Eleanor found me on the back porch. She handed me the envelope again, but this time it was open. "I'm not filing it," she said. "But I need to know if you still want to be married to me. Not just out of comfort or routine, but because you see me, because you want me." It hit me harder than I expected. Did I want her? Yes, desperately. But I had taken her for granted for so long that I wasn't sure if I even deserved her anymore. "I want to try," I said. "I want to fix what I broke, if you'll let me." She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. The following weeks were strange. We didn't tell Sophie. We smiled through dinners, held hands in public, even laughed a little. But late at night, I'd lie awake wondering, were we rebuilding or faking? Eleanor seemed different, distant sometimes, gentle but measured. And then one day, I overheard her whispering on the phone in the laundry room, a soft, quiet voice. "I didn't go through with it," she said. "No, he doesn't know. I can't hurt him again, but I still wonder." That he wasn't me. The word echoed in my mind for days. He. Who was he? A therapist, a friend, a lover? My thoughts turned dark. Every little memory now came with suspicion. The nights she came home late from her painting class. The new perfume she wore, one I hadn't bought for her. The way she guarded her phone. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was the one who failed her, and now I was just looking for something to blame. But something inside me wouldn't rest. One afternoon, she left her phone on the coffee table and stepped out to pick up groceries. The screen lit up. Call from Michael. My stomach dropped. I knew that name. Michael Whitmore, her old friend from college, a painter. A man who once stayed over when he visited town last summer. I'd always brushed off the way he looked at her. I picked up the phone, but didn't say anything. "Ellie?" his voice asked softly. "Are you there? I just wanted to hear your voice. I know this is hard, but I miss you." I hung up before he could say more. That night I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I was too shaken, too ashamed to confront her. Because if she had been seeking comfort from someone else, wasn't it my fault? But 2 nights later, I finally broke. We were sitting on the porch again. A breeze passed. The wind chime tinkled. "I know about Michael," I said. Her hand froze on her mug. She didn't deny it, didn't lie, didn't even look surprised. "I didn't sleep with him," she said quietly. "But I loved talking to him. He listened, he saw me, we shared things. Things I haven't been able to say to you in years." "Why him?" I asked. "Because he asked," she said. "Because he remembered my favorite color, because he noticed when I changed my hair, because he told me my art was beautiful." My heart broke. For the first time in 30 years, we slept in different rooms. She cried quietly that night. So did I. Sophie noticed. She was too smart not to. A few days later, she sat me down. "Dad, are you and Mom okay?" I didn't know how to answer that. How do you explain a crumbling marriage to the child you raised in it? "We're trying," I said, "and we're just trying." She nodded, lips trembling. "I saw the papers," she whispered. "What?" "The divorce papers, a month ago. I didn't say anything because I hoped you'd work through it. But maybe pretending doesn't help anyone." She hugged me tight. "I just want you both to be happy, even if it's not together." The next morning, I found a note slipped into my book, written in Eleanor's handwriting. It wasn't addressed to me. It was to Michael. "Dear Michael, thank you for reminding me who I am, for the talks, for the hope. But I can't keep walking between two lives. I owe it to Daniel, Mum, and myself, and to decide who I am and where I belong. I haven't chosen yet, but when I do, you'll know." I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. The woman I loved was choosing between us. 2 days later, Eleanor asked me to take a walk. It was early evening. The sky had a gentle golden hue, and the air carried the soft scent of the lilac bushes she planted years ago. We walked down the same path we had walked 1,000 times. But now everything felt fragile, suspended. "I've made a decision," she said quietly without turning to look at me. My chest tightened. "I'm staying," she added, finally facing me. "Not because of guilt or habit, but because I believe we can find our way back, if you're willing." I didn't respond right away, not because I doubted my feelings, but because I didn't know if we could truly find our way back from all that had been said, all that had been done. But then I thought of Sophie, of the laughter we used to share, of our first home, of the nights we held each other through storms, and not just weather, but life. "I'm willing," I said, "but it won't be easy." "I know," she replied, "but I'm willing too." We tried. The days passed slowly but gently. We talked more. We asked each other questions, real questions. Eleanor started painting again. I started reading her poetry. We even planned to take a weekend away, something we hadn't done in years. But life has a cruel sense of timing. Just as we began to mend, I got the call. My older brother Thomas had passed away. It was sudden, a heart attack. He was only 58, and just like that, I was thrust into grief again. Thomas and I had a complicated relationship. We hadn't spoken much in recent years. He was always the golden child, the one our parents admired, the one who followed tradition, married young, took over Dad's business. I took the quieter path. I became a teacher, married Eleanor, built a life filled with books and Sunday walks. But I still loved him, in my own way. The funeral would be held at the same church where Eleanor and I were married. The symbolism wasn't lost on either of us. It was at the funeral, standing outside the church doors, when it happened. The moment that would split our lives in two. Again. Eleanor and I stood side by side, arms linked, watching the crowd gather. Sophie was talking with some cousins on the lawn, laughing gently, trying to lighten the mood, until she saw someone that made her face drop. A woman, late 40s, dark hair, sophisticated, approaching us slowly. Sophie walked up to us, her face pale, and then, in a voice that cracked like thunder, she yelled, "You're not my real mom." The world fell silent. Guests turned. My breath left my body. "What?" Eleanor whispered. Sophie stood shaking, eyes locked on the approaching woman. Tears streamed down her face. "That's my mom," she said. "Isn't it?" The woman stopped a few feet away, her own eyes glossy. "Her name is Rachel," Sophie said, her voice trembling. "I saw a photo last year tucked in one of Dad's books. I asked, and he said it was a friend. But then I found a letter, hidden in the attic." She looked at me now, her voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me I was adopted?" Eleanor gasped. She looked at me, not with anger but betrayal. "You never told her?" she whispered. My hands trembled. I hadn't heard those words spoken out loud in years. Adopted. A truth I had buried so deep I thought I could take it to the grave, but now, under the open sky, in front of my wife and our daughter, it all crumbled. "Sophie, I was going to tell you," I stammered. "We were waiting for the right time." Eleanor stepped back. "You never told me you still had contact with Rachel," she said, her voice quiet but sharp. "I didn't. Not since Sophie was 3, I swear." Sophie turned to me, her face flushed with disbelief. "You lied to me my whole life. 18 years ago, Eleanor and I had been struggling with infertility. We tried everything, doctors, therapies, prayers. And then a call came. Rachel, a woman I had once briefly dated years before Eleanor was pregnant. The father had disappeared. She wasn't ready. She wanted a closed adoption, but she wanted someone she knew, someone she could trust. She chose me. I didn't tell Eleanor at first. I was afraid it would shatter her, afraid she'd see it as a betrayal, but I eventually did, and together we agreed to raise the child as our own. Sophie became our miracle, and then we sealed the past. But some pasts don't stay buried. Back home, the house was unbearably quiet. Eleanor didn't speak to me for hours. Sophie locked herself in her room. The woman who raised her, her mother in every possible way, now stood on the outside of her world. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, the weight of years pressing down on me. I had tried to protect everyone, but in doing so, I had built our family on silence. And now it was all falling apart. Eleanor came in around midnight. Her eyes were swollen, but her voice was calm. "You lied to her," she said. "You lied to me." "I was afraid," I said. "Afraid she wouldn't see us as real. Afraid she'd look at me differently." "And now?" she asked. "Now she might never look at me the same again." Eleanor sat down. "I didn't leave you," she said suddenly. "I almost did, but I didn't." I looked up. "I signed those papers because I thought I had lost you," she continued. But in the past few weeks, I saw glimpses of the man I fell in love with. Her voice broke, and today, I saw the man who still keeps secrets. The next morning, there was a note on the kitchen table. Dad and Mom, I need time. I'm going to Aunt Lily's for a few days. I'm not angry, I'm just overwhelmed. I love you both, but I need to figure out what's real. Please don't come after me. I'll call when I'm ready. Sophie. I sat in her empty room staring at the stuffed giraffe I gave her on her 5th birthday. Eleanor stood in the doorway, and for the first time in days, we cried together. Not because of betrayal, but because of grief. The days passed slowly. Each morning, Eleanor and I drifted through the house like shadows. We ate in silence, cleaned dishes without speaking, moved through the motions of life, together yet completely apart. Sophie didn't call. We respected her wishes, but every time the phone rang, our hearts jumped. We didn't talk much about the funeral or about the adoption or even the divorce papers anymore. We just waited and hoped. It was a rainy Friday afternoon. I was standing at the window watching the gray sky blur the trees when I saw a figure walking up the path. Umbrella, hoodie, backpack. My heart stopped. Eleanor rushed to the door before I could say a word. Sophie stood there, soaked from the rain, eyes red. Eleanor pulled her into a hug without a word. I watched them from the hallway, 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. Would she forgive us? Would she stay? Would we ever be whole again? That night, the 3 of us sat at the kitchen table. No food, no distractions, just truth. I wasn't angry, Sophie said, her voice soft. I was scared. We listened. All my life I thought I knew who I was, and in one moment that identity unshattered. I reached out, placing my hand gently over hers. I'm still your dad, I said. No letter, no secret, no document changes that. She nodded slowly. I believe that now, but I had to grieve it first. The version of me that didn't know. Eleanor wiped a tear from her cheek. I love you, she whispered, no matter what. I know, Sophie said, her voice breaking. I never doubted that, not even for a second. Later that evening, after Sophie went to bed, Eleanor and I sat by the fireplace. No TV, just the quiet crackle of the flames. I pulled out the divorce papers, still unsigned, still heavy. I never meant to hurt you, I said. I know, Eleanor whispered. And I never stopped loving you, not even when I thought I should. She took the papers from my hand and gently tore them in 2. We've wasted too much time already, she said. Let's start again. Not from scratch, but from truth. I nodded. Tears streamed down my face, not of sorrow, but of release. 1 year passed. We renewed our vows. No grand party this time, just the 3 of us in the backyard under the string lights Sophie helped hang. She read a poem she wrote herself. We laughed, we cried, we promised to love, to listen, to never keep silent again. Eleanor started painting full-time. I began teaching part-time again. And Sophie? She applied to college for psychology. She wanted to help others understand identity, the way she had come to understand hers. Our family wasn't perfect, but it was real, stronger than ever, and built on something far deeper than blood. It was built on truth and love. Even in the ruins of secrets and broken promises, something beautiful can grow. Sometimes it takes losing everything to rediscover what truly matters. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us tell more stories that matter. And remember, families aren't built on perfection. They're built on truth, forgiveness, and the courage to begin again. Thanks for watching.